সাউন্ডটাকে তখন টেস্ট করলাম, ভালোই হচ্ছে। আই হোপ এটা শুনতে পারলাম। So maybe we'll give like 5 more minutes because people have to walk from the Baker building and they have classes. That's why. Maybe I think we have a lot of people here, so we can start. It's a great pleasure to have with us our alumnus, Dr. Achintya, and he was from the class of 1973, and he did his BSc from Presidency College, Austral Presidency College, and then he did his master's from Rajabhadra Science College, and went to TIFR to do his PhD. So after completing his PhD in 1982, and this is, I think, interesting for the young students here, that he chose a little bit different career. So he was with the ONGC, the Oil and Natural Gas Corporation, and worked with ONGC for 30 years as a scientist and consultant. And within this period, he actually was also for 2 years, he was like a research scientist at University of Texas at Austin from 2006 to 2008. And then after retirement, he has been engaged in a lot of activities. And particularly, I would mention the Indian Association for Physics Teachers, because of his immense interest in physics education and to be with the community of young students and people who are into physics education. We actually met in the alumni meet, and then we also corresponded due to these ILPT issues, and his immense interest in music and filmmaking. Dr. Pal told me that started at TIFR. So that's why I think graduate school is not only for studies, but it can also develop this wonderful interest, which actually culminated to this very, very exciting title. And I'm sure that it will be a very interesting talk and we'll all enjoy it. So welcome, Dr. Pal. And let's hear about Voyager, the interstellar mission that went out 45 years back, even before I was born, and the voice of Indian classical music. So I'm really immensely grateful to Dr. Pal to have and share an afternoon with all my distinguished colleagues and students where we could mingle a space mission with classical music. So this is something that is very, very close to my heart, and I'm sure all of us will have a nice. Thank you, Dr. Pal. So everybody, so the talk, Dr. Pal asked me if the talk has to be in Bangla or English, but I think English is preferred. Is that okay with everybody?
सर अपने इतनी बड़ी बोल रहे हैं तो हाँ एक भी तो लग गई है निश्चय सर ठीक है वो তো এখান থেকে এটা মনে হচ্ছে তো আচ্ছা তাহলে হবে তাহলে আপনার এই এইটা দিয়ে এগোবে এটা দিয়ে তলারটা হচ্ছে তলারটা লেজার পয়েন্ট ও লেজার পয়েন্ট Okay, thank you, Sujatana. And when I acknowledge Sujatana, I have to acknowledge no, I mean, I know the work in tandem. Linearly, or there may be linear combinations also, right? Okay, so needless to tell you that I'm immensely excited to be here, standing here, giving a talk. I did give a talk on the longitude problem about 2-3 years back in Science College. So that was another occasion for excitement to me. But it is all the more because I was here more than half a century back. So I joined Presidency College in 1970. And after that, there was no occasion to be here except for trying for my daughter's admission. But then she started somewhere. And following up of what Sujatana said, that okay, even before that, I would first like to ask you, how many of you were, more or less accustomed to this form, or you real? Okay. And what is the composition? Meaning people are from physics, I know, physics and physics. But apart from that, from other disciplines? Okay, that's fine. But I know trying to slightly, but then.
That's why we are here.
Okay. And as she said, I switched my gears to geophysics and learned going but I was always in touch with mainstream physics because that was my first love. So it has to continue. And then after retirement, I am happy to be back to the mainstream. And as she said, I am associated with Indian Institute. So if you have, I particularly ask the teacher if they are not already aware of it, please do get aware of it and try to be a member of that. After you can either correspond with me or with her so that you know what they are trying to do. Well, as the name of the topic says, Voyager the interstellar mission. About the Voyager mission, some of you may be aware of it. So that is, and as I found out that at least most of you were unaware of it, but I will kind of admit that I was unaware of it in about 7 years. So I think we about it about 7 years back through a book called book by Namita Devija. Actually, that was a book on art teacher, Namita Devija, the classical musician. Who was in charge of research by about which so that book had this information. So because of my interest in music, I read that book, and from that I came to know about it. And then it's oh. So I'll first roll out the plan of the talk. A brief overview of the Voyager celebration and timeline of the last 45 years of experience. So that after the launch, 45 years have elapsed since 1977, utilizing a once-in-a-lifetime alignment. As I will explain that as I go along. But I must tell you at this point that it is not the alignment of planets that we had say, a few days back. So you could see in the external horizon all the planets, most of the planets one. But it's not that alignment that we talk. What it is, I will explain. And why it is once in a lifetime. And objective of that mission was, of course, technical, and along with that, the possibility of communication with intelligent beings elsewhere through images, sounds, and music of the earth imprinted on a gold. So that is the both technical as well as the other objective. And that was, I think, the second one was the first of its time. Earlier, there was no such things of, trying to communicate with any other intelligent beings. And this, in the through images, sounds, and music of the earth. So, in that, the proud position of an Indian classical piece in the musical segment, along with 26 others from all over the world. An anecdote of this will essentially be storytelling after the technical part. How the musical piece was insisted upon by one of the selectors, and while other narrative is missed. So it's a continuing American scientific program that employs 2 robotic probes. So primarily to study the outer solar system, and then it went even beyond that, as we'll see. Launched in 77 to take advantage of the favorable alignment of the major planets, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune. And now it is exploring the outer boundary of heliosphere in the interstellar space. And it won the approval of the Congress, the US Congress, only for studying only the planetary systems of Jupiter and Saturn. But then it was extended to Uranus and Neptune, and if one looks at the history of it, then we'll see that initially the approval was only for those two, but then it was extended later. And so that was 45 years back. So at this point, it may not be a bad idea to recount upon the dates of the Voyager mission in the problem. What were before? So people of our generation, I think people of our generation, and of course, you may have heard about all this. So in 57, the exciting thing of the first satellite being put into orbit was done in 1957. USSR, then Sputnik 2, Explorer, etc. And then came in 1961. In 1961, the first manned space flight. You must have heard about Yuri Gagarin. And then in the late 60s, and of course, in between, there was Pioneer and Mariner series. And late 60s, of course, that is known for the Apollo missions, culminating in landing on Moon, July 1969. And then Pioneer and Mariner series to explore the planets. Then, of course, in 1977, Voyager 2 and 1. So fly by all outer planets. So the aim went forward. And late 80s, the Pioneer mission continued, went beyond Neptune. And of course, the latest is, as you know already, the James Webb Telescope. There have been very nice photographs being back. And before that, of course, the Hubble telescope, which was put into space. So this one overtook the interest of, the excitement as far as viewing the clear pictures are concerned. And I would just want to mention it, even although many of you know about it. So this is especially designed to, in the infrared range, sense in the infrared range. And infrared range, of course, is due to the expansion or the receding of the galaxies from each other, from which the Hubble is concerned. So from Hubble's concerned, the inverse of that is the approximate age of the universe. And then, because of it is receding away from everyone, every other galaxy. So that naturally the red shift will be. So it will be infrared. That is the prime attraction of the James Webb Telescope. And now pinpointing on the Voyager program, although the Voyager 2 and 1, but Voyager 2 was launched before Voyager 1, because Voyager, soon you will see a color code, but now here you can see that this is the Voyager 1 and this is the Voyager 2. So after the encounter with Jupiter and Saturn, this was put away from the orbit and it went to interstellar space, whereas this one was extended to Uranus and Neptune, and then it went to the interstellar. So the trajectory went different from here. Now, what is actually meant by taking advantage of the alignment of the planets? So here it is. that the coincidence meant, if we go back to this, you will see that the positions are such that it will, as soon as it reaches a particular planet, then it will get a speed boost from the gravitational pull of each giant planet it passed, as if being tugged along by an invisible cord that snapped at the last second and flinging the probe on its way. So the gravitational pull is being utilized to push it further. And it is interesting to know that in 1965, even before man landed on the moon, a graduate student at the California Institute of Technology calculated that the repeated gravity assists, as they are called, would cut the flight time between Earth and Neptune from 30 years to 12. So this is kind of a qualitative or quantitative to give you how that was utilized. The push was utilized. So 30 to 12 years. But there was just one catch, that type of alignment happened only once in every once a last time it happened in 1800 and then 1976 and then 77. And to reach the planets while this lineup lasted, a spacecraft would have to be launched by the mid 1970s. It was finally done in 1977. So just to give you an idea that, as you already may be aware that for either an artificial satellite or a space vehicle on a mission to outer planets. So if this is the inner orbit, let us say the Earth's orbit, how it can be pushed into another orbit. So you need to, for artificial satellites, let us say, so at this point you change the speed slightly, and then it goes into the higher orbit. So that is called the Hohmann transfer, or if you are already aware. So this is just to get an idea how it could be done. Very qualitative. And then this is a comprehensive picture of the trajectory of the satellites. The orange one or the saffron one is for Voyager 2 and that is for Voyager 1. So you can see that although and Voyager 1 always went ahead. So and then after Saturn, it was thrown out of the plane of the orbit, but in the interstellar space, and then Voyager 2 continued on Uranus and Neptune, and then went out of the orbit. So here are some slides which I took from the NASA site. So these are the alignment, and the project began in 72. So it was initiated, or as we discussed, that the calculations were done in around 65, and then in 72 the project started. And initially it was called the Mariner Jupiter Saturn 1977. That was the original idea, but then it was renamed as the Voyager in May 1977. Then Voyager 2 was launched on August 20, and then Voyager 1 on September 5, in a space of few days. And Voyager 1 first encounters Jupiter, explores many of the moons, and maybe it discovers the various other things on the planet and the moon. And then closer encounter of Voyager 2 with Jupiter, then to Saturn, and there are various highlights of the Saturn encounter includes discovery of etc. Let us not dwell too much on the details, but basically it encountered Saturn, Voyager 1, and then Voyager 2. And as we said, that from then onward, the trajectories of Voyager 1 and 2 were separated from this point. Now, now onwards, the Voyager 2, now Voyager 1 has gone away. So Voyager 2 encounters Uranus, its closest approach to Uranus. The first time the seventh planet from the Sun has been seen up close. And now, as it went further and further, the need was to, catch the signals from so much far away. So that is called a deep space network, and so deep space network antenna of these types for the weak signals from there, and still they're catching that. And so the deep space network consists of three facilities, space equidistant from each other, almost equally, longitude-wise equally spaced. One in at Goldstone, California, in Spain, and near Canberra in Australia. And the strategic placement of these sites permit constant communication with this spacecraft as the planet progresses. So before a distant spacecraft sinks below the horizon at one site, another picks up the signal and carry on communication. So that was the idea. And then Voyager 2 encounters Neptune, discovers some more features like the counter-clockwise rotating storm in Neptune's southern hemisphere. And then in February 1990, the Voyager 1 took a last look at the family, the planetary system. Took the photographs of this at the suggestion of Carl Sagan, who was involved in this golden record also. So at his suggestion, this was done, that all the planets were photographed at once. So that is for the pale blue dot. The Earth is seen as a pale blue dot. And then Voyager 1 crosses the area of influence of the Sun. Let us not go into the details, the Helios heat and termination shock, basically the sphere of influence of the Sun. So it goes beyond that and into the interstellar space. And then Voyager 2 in August 13, 2012, the Voyager 2 becomes NASA's longest operating mission, breaking the previous record for continuous operation by Monday. And the Voyager 1 enters the interstellar space, passing beyond the heliopause, which is the boundary between our solar bubble and the matter ejected by explosion of others. So that was, I think, 28, and then 35 years maybe. Yeah, 27 and well, almost 40 years. So well, so that was the the path of the Voyager spacecrafts. And then this is just to give an idea where the different receiver stations were positioned in different parts of the world for the deep space network, and a more clearer picture of the pale blue dot. And this figure summarizes the things that we have discussed so far. So it is currently here, which is about 22 light hours. So in terms of kilometers or miles, it will be about 12 billion miles and 14.6 billion miles for the Voyager. Here, the nomenclature is slightly altered. This is actually Voyager 2, this is Voyager 1. And that is roughly 12 to 14 billion miles or 18 million kilometers in terms of that. So just to give you an idea that even to reach the Proxima Centauri, the nearest star, it will have to, go thousands of years to reach 4.3 light years, whereas right now there are only 22 light hours. Now, this was the overview of the scientific objective and what we achieved. And the objective other than technical, we'll go into that now, the communication with intelligent beings elsewhere in the universe. So that has always been, the people on Earth had thought whether we are alone in this universe as the intelligent, quote unquote intelligent beings, whether any such other civilization occurs elsewhere in the planetary system. And preparing a so the idea was to put everything about the earth through images, sounds, and music imprinted on actually a copper record, gold plated. So that is why it's called a golden record. And preparing a time capsule has been contemplated by many people, ancient and modern. That is, say, in pyramids also, you see the evidences are kept how people lived that time. So preparing a time capsule, as the idea is not new, but this was put on a on a record, and then if somebody in the outer universe could catch them, then they would know about us. This is of course highly speculative, but that was the idea. So this is how the golden record looked with the pictorial instruction to play and decipher it. And that was called Murmurs of the Earth by Dr. Carl Sagan of Cornell University. So that is what we have already said, or civilization, should that be encountered somewhere in the universe. Containing sounds and images selected to portray the diversity of life and culture on Earth. So this is where it was pasted on the spacecraft. And the contents of the record were selected for NASA by a committee chaired by Carl Sagan of the Cornell University. You must have heard about Carl Sagan for the and his associates assembled 115 images and a variety of natural sounds. And to this, they added musical selections from different cultural eras and spoken greetings from Earth people in 55 languages. And suppose some extraterrestrial finds the spacecraft and the golden record aboard, and it's able to play the contents of it. Then and if they follow the instructions, they play the record. The glimpse of how the record was cut. And here is Dr. Carl Sagan and this Murmurs of the Earth. This book was, published immediately after the launch. And in fact, when I prepared this presentation about a few years back, then this book was not available. So somebody got it from the US. But recently I found out that it is now available on the net as a PDF file. So you can really download. 115 images, 19 natural sounds on the earth, and spoken greetings from earth people in 55 languages, out of which there will be 10 Indian languages. See, out of 55 languages. So from very archaic language spoken in Sumer about 6,000 years ago and ending with a modern Chinese dialect. And just to give an idea where the Akkadian region was, it is basically between Euphrates and Tigris, the area of Iraq and all that. So that is the Akkadian region. And then 27 musical sections from different cultures and what we are leading to. The instructions in symbolic language explain the origin of the spacecraft and indicate how the record is to be played. And this is the golden record team, the different people. So John Lombard was in charge of assembling these 115 images. There are various interesting ones, and among them was one remarkable sequence, how a human is born and then how he grows. And this photograph is from the famous collection, The Family of Man. Have you heard about Family of Man exhibition? Okay, that was in Museum of Modern Arts in 1955. And and within that, the different photographers participated in that competition, and there are, and it was entitled The Family of Man. And it may be interesting to note that Satyajit Ray's Pothar Pachali image or the you see the image of Opu Durga and Sarvajaya. So that entry is there in the Family of Man and among and others. And our Taj Mahal finds a proud place among the images, and it is interesting to note that it is there in the book that the variety of buildings we build, out of a host of possibilities, the Eiffel Tower, the Mayan pyramid, we chose Taj Mahal. The Taj Mahal is a monument not to religion, but to love, and thus was an appealing choice. It also generally regarded as one of the world's most beautiful buildings. And then there were this greetings in 55 different languages. And as I said, there are 10 Indian languages among a total of 55. And just to huh? Huh? Just you can play.
Yeah, I don't know why. Stay on the channel. কি বাবা আরে
No, wait, here.
আচ্ছা এটা এইভাবে করছি বলে নাকি কি হলো বলতো, মাউসটা এরকম হলো, দশা হলো কেন? I played it just few.
I think you have to first cancel that.
Okay.
Hello from the children of planet Earth.
শুনতে পাওয়া যাচ্ছে না এখানে, হ্যাঁ। আপনারা দিন একটু সাউন্ডটা, শোনা যাচ্ছে না, হ্যাঁ।
No, nothing is being played. Yeah, you have to play the play button. Yes.
Hello from the children of planet Earth.
Sound
Can't
is,
see, we
but
can't
sound
hear.
is slightly higher. Because otherwise you can just play the Gujarati or whatever.
We
Or
had it
Urdu.
very loudly.
Right.
Huh? But it plays here very nicely.
No, no, no. The play icon, the play icon. Yeah, yeah, that's it.
अस्सलाम वालेकुम।
Yeah, but
हम
I
ज़मीन
can't
के
hear.
रहने वालों की तरफ से आपको
We are
खुश
able to
आमदीद
hear, but
कहते हैं।
আমরা শুনতে পাচ্ছি না কিছু এটা। Anyway, we can play the sounds later. You can go on.
Because sound is important.
হ্যাঁ,
এখানে হচ্ছে না।
এখানে নিচ্ছে না, একটু আগেই তো নিচ্ছিল।
আপনার ওখানে হচ্ছে না।
Hello from the children of
Here I
planet
can hear.
Earth.
Hello from the children of Earth. So maybe we can play the sounds later. You can go on with the talk. We can play the sounds later.
Yeah. But what about the song? That we will
Song
play?
has to be played. We have to see the sound.
Okay. Anyway, so basically, these languages, different languages can be heard, and then what I included is the Morse code, that you can hear, and then the ships, etc. So the different kind of sounds, so that if anyone can recognize any of these sounds. So that was the idea, and then the chirping of birds, the hyena. In fact, from that sound file, I earlier heard that in Bangladesh say that hyena. So it really sounds like a laugh by the humans. The hyenas. So that I wanted you to listen, but anyway, that is not possible. And of course, the baying of elephants and all. Well, then comes the 27 pieces of music from all over the world. And there were these two people who assembled the world music from different cultures and languages, Alan Lomax and Robert Brown. And the criteria of the choice of world music was contribution from a wide range of cultures should be included, not just the music familiar to the society that launched this list. So that is important. And nothing should be included out of merely beautiful concerns. Every selection should touch the heart as well as the mind. And the leader of the music segment says that we succeeded in presenting music of non-Western cultures. Half of the Voyager's record is theirs. And only a handful of persons devote themselves to recording and understanding the music of societies removed from the world. And some compositions promptly established themselves. For example, Kesar by Kerala, so the classical musician, performance of the Indian raga recommended independently by two musicologists and some Chinese things. So they were among the first choices to be included in that. And this is just a list of the 27 choices. You can see the usual names like Bach, Beethoven, Mozart, but then the different folk music of different areas, Australia, Mexico, and whatnot, and Peru. From remote corners of the world. And then was the Indian raga, Jaat Kahan Ho, song sung by Shulsi Kesar Bhai Kelkar. And the percussion master, if you have heard the name of, Balgat Mani Iyer, the Mridangam player. So if I could extend the list, it would include the following: a lively Mridangam solo from India, played by Balgat Mani Iyer, who may well be the world's best drummer. But that could not be accommodated due to the limitation of this space in the record. This is the record which I got from someone. And then is a brief episode of how that record was found in New York. And Robert Brown had just placed at the top of the list of world music for outer space. But at this point, I must tell you that there have been a lot of controversy about why this particular song, but that was the part who was asked to refuse. There have been many that there are many other songs by different people, different musicians. But anyway, Andrew, who was in charge of finding that, he was not finding it, so he phoned Brown. She phoned Brown and asked him to suggest an alternative. But Brown said that there is no other. You have simply, there is nothing close. He insisted, keep looking. So he wanted that, and finally, Andrew had got it from some appliance store in Lexington Avenue, and she found 3 unopened copies of the song. And why I want to buy all 3 occasions, all 3 occasions, a great deal of animated speculation on the part of the owners. So they were wondering why she is buying them. And it's a thrilling piece of music. I phone Brown and find myself say, thank you. Well, that is the back cover of the record. And here is Kesar Bhai Kelkar. If you have heard about her, it's fine, but if you haven't, you now see her. So 1892 to 1977. So she was from the area of the Keri village Keri in Goa, Konkanis. And what is blocked here is that she was honored with the title Shurasri by none other than Rabindranath Tagore. And that time, most of the musicians performed in Calcutta, and the Calcutta was the place for exposure of such things. And every musician aspired to perform in Calcutta before any others.
জাস্ট ওই এটা ওই আটকে যাচ্ছে কিছুটা, সেই জন্যই করছি।
Up to now, slide show from the current. Yeah, okay. Yeah. Okay, thank you. So Gurudev Rabindranath Tagore honored her with the title Subhashri. And Maharashtra government adorned her with the title Rajya Gayika. And lyrics of the composition set to Rag Bhairavi. There are different ragas in Indian classical music. So this is the most, popular one, you may say. And Bhairavi is such a rag that, I just add this that in the music festival earlier, there was a special already after the whole night program. They would give you like a sitting on the day after the day. So can you know
So now let's try and see that if this works. Yeah, I think I shared it and it worked, but let me see.
now play in the play.
It's not playing, no? Okay.
Play. Oh, I see. Okay. But how are you? Yeah. I will not play the whole thing. That's the celebration. How to stop this? So this is about 3.5 minutes. So or you can just go to the next. Yeah. Okay.
Zoom টা দেখছি। No, it's still recording. Why is it sharing টা? Sharing. Okay, share. Why is the keyboard not? কি হলো এটা? I'm not sure. There is some technical issues, but it says sharing. So I don't know why the whole thing is gone. No, you don't have to. I think it's the whole thing here. I can't. Can we see the slides? No, not yet. Okay. Okay.
Okay.
Play from current slide.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. We have just had one sentence. I know you have been clearly about so this is essentially a morning rag. The rag is played in the morning, and if you remember, you guys and that you will remember that was morning. And when we release the sound and the things are very, so happy that it takes our the very starting stage answers. So that is our very. And while we decided that you have to develop the taste point, I would suggest that you listen to videos. I mean, rather, the resemblance is different between different. So I'll quickly finish, don't worry. This is a few slides about Kesabai Kedkar. She was the disciple of Ustad Aladia Khan of Jaipur Atharali Gharana. There are various Gharanas like Gwalior, then Kirana, Pandit Bhimsen Joshi belonged to Kirana. And other luminaries are Pandit Mallikarjun Bansur and Kishore Yamunkar. You have heard the name. And here is shown that Dr. Rajendra Prasad honoring Kesabai Kedkar, most probably with Padma Bhushan. And here is Maulana Abdul Kalam Azad, the then education minister. Just imagine the status of a learned man like Maulana Abdul Kalam Azad. And here is Dr. Rajendra Prasad. He honored various musicians, and the remarkable feature of this picture is that all are males except Kesabai Kedkar. So she could stand stand on her own. So bright side in the galaxy of renowned musicians honored by Dr. Rajendra Prasad. And in case you are interested in the names of these who are there. So I asked myself, could a film be made on this? In '96, the renowned director Shyam Benegal made a film on Sardari Begum, a film Sardari Begum on the life of Begum. So I feel that life of Kesabai has enough interesting material for making of a film if someone cares to do so. And Namita Devideval's book, which I mentioned in the beginning, The Music Room, describes all the facets of Kesabai's life, including her faults. So, and human being is made up of all different things, apart from our qualities. But anyway, so that is enough material for making a film. While the general tendency of the Indian biographies is only to glorify. So to wind up, isn't it a great pride for all of us that 45 years of space travel and about 14 billion Celestial miles later, the haunting raga Bhairavi, the Hindustani classical rendition by Kesabai, has been immortalized alongside the greatness of Chuck Berry, Mozart, Bach, the well-known names on that fateful golden record. It's the only song from India that made it on the record and is now wandering through the unexplored terrains of outer space till perhaps the end. And the remarkable coincidence, Namita Devideval writes in her book, Kesabai died on the day the city celebrated, the Bombay city celebrated the homecoming of Lord Ganesha. By a coincidence, today is Ganesh Chaturthi. And it was a rainy day in September 77, 16 to be precise. And somewhere circulating many miles above the Earth's surface was a haunting song rendered by her. Voyager 2 and Voyager 1 were launched in 1977, around the same time as the demise of. Just a coincidence. Now, I acknowledge Department of Physics, the Presidency University, in particular Suchetana Chatterjee. She had shown real interest in this topic. I do not know whether you liked it, but anyway, let us see, for inviting me to deliver this talk. And Jayati Sengupta, she was my batchmate and in physiology. She got me this rare copy of the Marvels of the Earth, but now it is available on the net. And of course, Namita Devideval, the author of The Music Room. And here are some links, the 3 links from where I got most of the pictures of Voyager mission. And then this particular link will tell you about the latest status of the Voyager mission. The 45 years have elapsed, and also you have want us to appreciate that what is there on the spacecraft is a 50-year-old technology. No, IC, nothing. Maybe some ICs are there, but it's a 50-year-old technology. And then some of the pictures were taken from here. And finally, I fondly remember a horde of talented people in TIFR who kindled my interest in classical music. So that was in '79. So I started going to musical programs and listen to various. Then I gradually developed my own taste for the classical music. And thank everyone in the audience for their patience.
So maybe we should play those sounds, I guess.
No, okay. I mean,
Let's-
these are not
yeah.
easy, but,
No, I think it's, let's see that. I'll just stop the record.
the box too, or
Yeah, let me stop